Good morning. It is 10:34 a.m. on Monday, April 16th, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. I had a great time yesterday, and I'll talk more about that tomorrow. Um, because I'm going to do Ghost in the Shell rewatch, standalone complex rewatch today. I'd actually be probably out there doing more stuff. Related to the marathon and extended family and so on, except that I am really not feeling well today. So let's go ahead and get through this, and we'll all be able to take a nap again afterwards. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm really kind of out of it right now, you guys. Anyway, though, this was an exciting episode tonight or today. I'm talking about episode 22, corporate graft scandal. And so now that we had the events of, if you recall, last week's episode featured, the attempt to rescue this guy Imakaruz who knew about the whole scandal of the vaccine, that was blocked for sale, but still used by high-profile individuals. But then he was killed at the end. But Section 9 got the file. And so we opened this episode with Section 9 seemingly having gained the upper hand. They found the evidence to link the head of the DEA and the Narcotics Suppression Squad to the assassination of Imakaruz, and they go in and they arrest him. But we get a hint at the beginning that there's more to it because we have this guy who seems like he would be a pretty high profile guy saying it won't get any further than me. So that suggests that, he at the very least reports to, if not is subservient to others. Excuse me. But just when Section 9 would seemingly have the upper hand in that regard, we discover that they maybe got ahead of themselves a little bit because there is a lot of we get a couple of really close calls here, where the only thing that saves Aramaki is the fact that he's got a great team who cares about him, even when sometimes he is pushing them away a little bit. And then Motoko, the major, is only saved because the Laughing Man has taken an interest in her. So that's, very close call. So let's talk about Aramaki's bit first. As soon as he is, he's, brought in this head of the DEA, and he gets a little bit of a warning from the Prime Minister, who just kind of says, between you and me, while no one else is listening right now, I'm letting you know that the guy you just arrested has some really high profile buddies, and they're not going to be happy about how this is going down. So Aramaki is, appreciates the warning, but, it's like, well, Aramaki wouldn't be Aramaki if he would take that sort of thing and let that change his behavior. But in any event, sure enough, as soon as he's even just in the parking garage downstairs, a reporter shows him a picture of someone who looks like his brother. His brother, who he had thought lost after the war a long time ago, and this idea that his brother might be alive but in trouble related to drugs. And so Aramaki's no dummy, right? He's fully aware that, we're taking down the head of the DEA and his team, and then somehow there's a thing that's related to drugs going on. But that said, he had thought his brother lost. Like, he never knew him to be dead exactly, but he just went missing and never found him. This idea of, like, could it be? Is it possible his brother is alive? Like, could he try to, at least find out? But unfortunately, and, something that I think the rest of his team ought to, cluck their tongues at him later is to say, this felt very personal to you, but that let you walk into a trap and almost completely unable to warn everybody where you were, and it was only the fact that Bato was already trying to follow him that saved him. Um, or rather that, Bato and Ishikawa were, paying attention to, like, hey, where'd he go? Like, so if not for that, they almost certainly would not have been able to save him from being this frame up. But so in any event, Aramaki first tries to go to this hospital where supposedly his brother was arrested and is being forced to undergo drug treatment for drug withdrawal, and they won't let him in. And so, it's like, okay, well, that doesn't really answer the question either way, because if the story was true, that's probably still what the rule would be, is that they wouldn't let anybody in. And he's not the type to yell at people in the guard business, because first of all, where he's coming down on this, right, is he knows something's up. Something's fishy here. This is not above board. However, is the whole thing a lie? Or is it just that the DEA has found his brother and now they're using him like a hostage, right? Like, it could be either way. And if it's the latter, if his brother is really alive, he definitely wants to know that. So he instead, after getting turned away at the hospital, he goes and he tries to investigate where he was supposedly arrested, and he meets these two guys who seem to be homeless, that would have known where, supposedly where his brother had been when he was arrested. And that we get some initial conversations of them saying, oh yeah, we were good friends with him. You look just like him. He was such a good guy, and they arrested him for no reason. And, this is all playing on Aramaki's guilt, because this idea that, like, his brother might have gotten arrested and hurt because of what Aramaki is doing, right? And so they're saying, we recorded video of them arresting him. We'll show it to you. We want to help him. And unfortunately, Aramaki has fallen prey now to the remaining members of the Narcotics Suppression Squad under the DEA, who set this all up as a frame-up to basically frame Aramaki for using drugs. Like, they capture him there and they inject him with drugs, and the plan is to have the police find him there, under the influence of drugs, and have him ruined that way. But thankfully, we had Bato noticing, hey, the chief was supposed to meet me to talk about some stuff, and then he decided at the last minute that he's doing some other thing, and now he's in autistic mode. I'm actually still unsure how I feel about that terminology. I wonder how that feels. Like, the idea, I suppose, is that you're just not communicating to the outside network, but I don't. Anyway, but so in any event, the Aramaki has turned off all his signals, so he's not reachable, and they don't know where he is. So that's concerning. And so they're paying attention. They're starting to try to look around and say, well, where might he have gone? What's going on? And so when he's assaulted, he manages to get off just a little bit of a signal. And it's only the fact that Bato was already nearby he was able to get there in time, take out these DEA guys, and get Aramaki out before he could be arrested. And it was a very near miss. So they take him to their own hospital to get him treated and in recovery, and it's a very close thing. And so and Aramaki is left kind of still not knowing, is it, like, clearly this was all a ploy, so they made up the whole thing, but it also just raises the question of, is it possible his brother is actually still alive? He hadn't thought about it in a while, and then there's this picture. It seems like it might have been him. Who knows? And so he's left very kind of wistful and conflicted about the whole thing. Meanwhile, we have the Major, whose body got all beat up after fighting that big armored thing last time. And so she's going to go get swapped out to a fresh one. And this is all an interesting process too, because it's treated as a fairly run-of-the-mill medical procedure, except of course for the assassination attempt. But uh, that it's kind of this ordinary thing, but it's also just, it's interesting to just reflect on and have be more even more confronted with the idea that you know the major's really, the ghost in the shell, right? Like this idea is that she is a person, but that person is not inherently tied to that body. She could just take that brain out and put it in a different one. And she's picked another one that looks just like the one she's got, but she could have picked a different one and looked like anything she wanted. And and it's just an interesting thing. That's not like our current technology, but it's interesting to think about. But in any event, she brings her friend that we've seen once before to be her witness, which we can imagine if you have an individual changing from one body to another, it makes sense that you would want to have someone that you trust witness the procedure to make sure there's nothing funny going on, especially for someone like the major who's high profile in this dangerous business. And then, sure enough, they were unprepared, kind of like Aramaki. Like her friend got drugged and was asleep, and this doctor just turned out to be, either not a real doctor or on a payroll or something. And it's a little bit interesting too that this doctor claims, protestation of like, well, you know, I don't. It's not like I enjoy doing this sort of thing, but she clearly does because she's screwing with the major. It's like, here, I'll just turn off your speech center, and like, oh, you know what? You're giving me a dirty look. So how about this? Now you can't see red. And and it was just this thing where it's like the major is utterly at her mercy. There's nothing she could do. So she was in real trouble there. But it's only the fact that our laughing man, our guy in the blue coat, shows up, and it's again interesting. We see that he has hacked the eyes of the doctor there in the room because we see him just walk right into the room. She doesn't even notice, and he has this negotiation with the major before helping her, where he basically is saying, "Okay, here's the thing. Um, I need. I'm going to try to do something, and I'll tell you more about what it is that I'm trying to do and why. But in exchange for that, I need you to not try to stop me. And it may be that I fail anyway. And if I do, I wanted you to know so that you can make sure that the story gets out." And this is all kind of predicated on I will help you not die if you agree to my proposition here. Which the major makes it very clear that she's not a fan of this kid. She doesn't appreciate this sort of an ultimatum, but she's also obviously in trouble and needs help. And so she is even kind of brave enough to tell him, "Look, I need your help, obviously. I will agree to what you say and I'll try to abide by it, but I may not be able to keep my word." I think that's good storytelling and characterization, to have her not just say, "Yes, okay, whatever you want," but to just make it clear that, she's honorable almost to a fault, where she makes it clear to him, "It means something for me to give my word to you, but I also do have higher loyalties. And if I feel like what I have agreed to in retrospect is not a good deal, I'm not going to, I may not follow through with that." But so, the laughing man, he basically finishes the body transfer so that Motoko can go ahead and take out this doctor. But they have this whole little exchange there too, where the laughing man is basically indicating he's going to try a mission that might result in his death, And, the Major mentions this whole idea, the mark of the immature man is that he wants to die nobly for a cause, while the mark of the mature man is that he wants to live humbly for one. She's basically criticizing his sort of flashy, theatrical sort of approach to these things instead of, for example, just going to the authorities and telling them what he knows, right? But, we still don't have that full picture given to us, right? But, by the end of this episode, the memories have been transferred, and so we can imagine getting filled in on more details for that next week when we continue our rewatch for episode 23, which is called The Other Side of Good and Evil, Equinox. Bum, bum, bum. All right, now I need to go lie down again. So I will talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes and talk a little bit more about my weekend.